Back to school is so close, but still so confusing.
And then we're teaching them how to speak more loudly with their own voices. That's liberation.
Remote learning and music lessons. How do you do that? And a lot of school sports are being moved to next year, prompting some kids to move out of state. And because we are a Colorado newscast, we have weed. A weed story, that is, and Kanye, and a crazy story about a Colorado fugitive found nearly 50 years later. Don't run off. We are next. High school sports started again today. Boys golf teed off at Wellshire Golf Course in Denver. Softball and boys tennis start next Thursday. Cross country a couple of days later. And then football will not start until March. 1 month after student athletes sign their national letter of intent to play in college. That is a timeline that will not work for some high school seniors, at least if they stay in high school in Colorado. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
If I had a kiddo who was like I was, needed a senior year to get recruited, I would definitely be looking at going out of state.
Colorado's Friday night lights will be dark until March 4th. Actually, that's a Thursday, 30 weeks from today.
If the NCAA were to move signing day back to May, this is all done. Everything's fine. Any state can push back to the spring, and it doesn't matter one bit.
Tim Jenkins is a player development coach of more than 200 athletes. Across the country, 37 states are scheduled to play high school football this month, next month, or October. Colorado is among 12 that will wait until next year. North Carolina hasn't decided yet. Our spring kickoff is after National Signing Day.
You're asking college football coaches to say, hey, there's 37 other states playing on time or before signing day, and you need to wait it out for a Colorado kid who potentially in 3 more weeks will put out a good game on film. And I just think that's a hard sell to a college football coach.
Some well-known student athletes already moved while the football season was still in the air. Senior running back Noah Schmidt posted his goodbye to Grandview on Twitter, saying he was going to Hamilton High School in Chandler, Arizona, which is where a few other Colorado high schoolers have enrolled. Transferring is also on the mind of Heritage High School senior tight end Terrence Ferguson, who already knows he's going to Oregon, but wants the extra reps.
Currently, I'm looking into moving out of state to go play my senior season.
Transferring this year would definitely be a business decision. It wouldn't be for social, any of that.
Cherry Creek senior wide receiver Chase Penry.
University of Colorado, Colorado State, UNLV, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, University of Penn.
Yeah, those were Ivy League schools. He's got his offers, but threw around the idea of transferring.
I think we have a really good chance of being one of the top teams in Colorado history, so I wanted to finish off what we started.
Penry will stick around for spring ball, but understands why some other seniors need to get out of state to chase greatness.
A lot of kids rely on this fall to get the scholarship offers.
Having the investigative mind that I do, I checked with Arizona's version of CHSA about eligibility. How can these students transfer from one state to the other just to play sports? The student and their family both have to establish a residence and address. It can't just be a student living on their own or with someone else. So it seems as though you can prove that, Jeremy, that you're okay to play. Something else I didn't know, a lot of these student athletes try to graduate early in December. Enroll in the college they're going to be able to participate in spring practice, to be able to get those extra reps, to have a chance at being a successful college athlete. And in that scenario, spring football just doesn't work because you're already going to be in college trying to play spring practice.
Yeah, great report, Marshall. I know this was a quick turn for you today. Any indication that some of the colleges are going to be flexible here, or is this just the hard date for many of them?
Well, first I reached out to the NCAA to see if they were going to change signing day, because as you heard from Tim Jenkins, if they push it from the beginning of February, this could open up better avenues for all these schools that are delaying. I didn't hear back from the NCAA. I was trying to talk with UNC because they're a school that might have some of these borderline athletes that may not be pro, may have pro potential. They need that senior season, and I wanted to ask UNC, maybe I'll get a chance tomorrow, will they have flexibility, or are they going to be, if I don't know what you are by February, you're going to have to go somewhere else?
Gosh, it is so confusing for a lot of people. So many things up in the air. Nice job, Marshall. Thank you. Well, it is really back to school, an actual school for most kids in the Cherry Creek School District. Most students there will be learning in person by the end of the month. The school district announced today it will open on August 17th. with a phased approach during the first week. And the plan is essentially the younger you are, the more likely you'll need the structure of an actual classroom. The current plan calls for 100% in-person learning for students in pre-K through 5th grade. 5th grade students will be in person on the first day, August 17th, and then other grade levels will go back to school each day, with kindergartners and first graders returning that Friday on August 21st. Older students in 6th grade grade through high school will do a blending learning option similar to a hybrid option that other school districts are doing. Basically 2 days of in-person and 3 days of remote learning per week. The district says if things start to go in the wrong direction with this pandemic and the virus gets worse, the entire district will go fully remote. For a recommendation, this is where we tell you about something, anything that is not ours, but is definitely worth your time. We've talked a lot about metro area schools looking at online learning and hybrid options, but some schools in rural areas have no choice but to return to in-person classes. Jenny McCoy with the Colorado Sun has a great article that profiles schools in Crowley County with fewer resources there, like lack of computers and broadband internet for student homes. All 4 schools in the district there are looking at in-person learning when they go back this month. It's a real fascinating read. We'll post the full article on the next Facebook page. The positivity rate for COVID-19 in our state was over 2.7%. Our 7-day moving average is now at 3.69%, still well below the 5% threshold the World Health Organization says we need to stay under. 203 people are currently hospitalized in Colorado with COVID-19. The 7-day moving average is at 212 per day. We were at 245 people per day a week ago and more than 260 per day 2 weeks ago. 22 patients have been discharged or transferred in the last 24 hours. Colorado added 448 new cases of COVID-19 from yesterday, but it's always important to look at the trend here. Our 7-day average is now a little over 461. That's down almost 100 cases per day from this point last week. Alrighty, so it's Thursday, so how about a little throwback? Where were you 46 years ago? I wasn't even alive, but I got to tell you about this wild story that came across my feed this morning. Back in 1971 here in Denver, a police officer was shot by a man who escaped from a California prison. That officer survived, and the shooter was eventually convicted, but then he escaped again 46 years ago. And since then, this whole time, the cop who was shot has been trying to track this guy down and just recently got a big break. Daryl Cinquanta was a cop in Denver when this escaped California convict shot him in the stomach in 1971. The timeline of events is a bit complicated, but in short, the shooter, Lawrence Pusateri, was convicted of the crime but escaped again from Colorado 46 years ago. And since then, Daryl has been trying to find him. During that time, Daryl retired from the police department and started his own private investigation firm. But he never stopped making phone calls and doing door knocks in hopes of tracking down the man who shot him. And then a phone call came this past summer.
And this person says, I thought about it, and I'm going to tell you where the guy is that shot you. And of course, I was skeptical. I mean, 46 years later, now the clear blue, I get a phone call. Well, this person gives me his address, his alias, and other facts that, meant nothing at the time.
Daryl finds a man named Ramon Montoya living in Española, New Mexico for the past 40 years. He found a drunk driving case on his record and a mugshot. Daryl was convinced it was the guy he's been looking for. Española police and the FBI got involved and confirmed Lawrence Pusateri was living a lie. His tattoos matched up. And they surrounded it with a SWAT unit, and they went in and got him. I'm reveling in the fact that I got him. And they're going to extradite him back, and I'm going to try to see him. I would love to sit down and talk to him. So he may or may not talk to me. Who knows? What do you say to a guy who shot you 40 years ago? Hey, I'm that guy and I got you. Daryl credits the FBI and the Espanola Police Department for their work on this case. It's unknown when Pusateri will be back in Colorado, but you know, what a story here. Apparently, he was living with a wife who had no idea about his past. How about that? Protesters spent their day blocking the entrance to the Webb building in Capitol Hill. Their goal is to prevent landlords from entering the building and filing evictions. Denver police and SWAT were called in to get people to disperse this afternoon, but the crowd stuck around. The group wants Governor Polis and Mayor Michael Hancock to put another pause on evictions in the city and state. A moratorium on evictions ended in June. There is still an executive order in place until next Tuesday that requires landlords to give a 1-month notice to tenants before starting the eviction process. So I guess it's official here. Kanye West is going to be on the presidential ballot in Colorado in November. But as we told you yesterday, getting on the ballot is as easy as paying $1,000 and having 9 of your closest friends agree to be your presidential elector should you win. Or in Kanye's case, 9 random people you probably have never met. So the ballot will include President Trump, Democratic challenger Joe Biden, and Kanye West, and perhaps dozens more. In 2016, there were 28 people on the ballot for president here in Colorado. The Secretary of State's office should be letting us know tonight or tomorrow who the others are that did not get the same free publicity. With remote learning, how do you make sure students learn about the arts?
We are going through brainstorming and trying to find solutions to stay connected in this new format.
This group isn't letting a pandemic put a stop to music lessons. And nothing unusual here about a weed growing in a gutter. Wait a minute. That's an interesting weed. The most Colorado thing we saw today. Next.
Another warm summer day with temperatures in the lower 90s and terrible air quality, but we're getting a little bit of wind tonight to mix out some of those particulates. Temperatures are going to soar. We thought it was warm today. We're headed into the mid 90s, close to 100 for the next couple of days. A few showers move through Denver. We get a little bit of hail outside of Calhan, some thunderstorm wind damage near Byers, and all of those heavy thunderstorms are going to track east of us. Tomorrow is just going to be warm and dry with probably the best chance for storms to the north of us. And so as we watch the futurecast for tonight, the storms will move out, skies clear, and then we go into the 60s overnight tonight with partly cloudy skies. Sunshine tomorrow, a hot high of 96, and the trend of highs 95 to 100 continues right into the upcoming weekend.
After months of being closed, the Manitou Incline reopened to the public today, but with some notable changes here. Take a look at the newest feature at the bottom, if we can see it. It's kind of dark there. It's a check-in tent for visitors. Reservations are required for the incline now, so visitors have to check in at the bottom to confirm their reservation and to get a wristband. Without either of those, you'll get fined if you're caught climbing illegally. The incline has been closed since mid-March. Reopening plans were dragging because of disputes between Manitou Springs and Colorado Springs about parking and road usage. Colorado Springs approved the reopening plan just last night. Under the new system, reservations are now limited to 45 people per 30-minute window. Reservations can be made up to 7 days in advance. They work to make sure hundreds of Denver students don't get left behind.
Especially with COVID-19, we're finding that many of the students who are the most marginalized are getting squeezed even more so.
A challenging task during a pandemic. One group is making sure the music plays on. Next. I love seeing my dog on the news. This whole remote learning business is really challenging everybody, from moms and dads, kids of course, and teachers. Aside from math, science, English, what about the arts? That stuff is necessary too, right? I was horrible at the recorder in 4th grade. Remember the recorders? but music class taught me to appreciate what goes into the art of music. Our Mike Grady shows us how one group is working to keep music on the curriculum.
This music class has all the traditional tools students need, and some more modern ones.
We're taking temperatures, we're making sure hands are clean.
Denver musician Stephen Brackett,
Youth on Record is a dream for justice made real.
Co-founded Youth on Record in 2008.
If I was going to have 3 artists on a track, it would be...
The program provides music education in 10 schools across 3 districts.
Before COVID, we had a mixture of like out-of-school activities, and then the majority of our programs were in school, during the school day, in high schools for credit.
Students who have been marginalized and who do not traditionally have access and opportunity to education.
Michelle Rocket,
and I am a teaching artist at Youth on Record,
has been instrumental in adapting the program for the upcoming school year.
We are learning how to do this remotely.
How do we connect with care? Digitally with our students.
4 credit classes will follow rules put in place by the districts. Independent classes like this Open Lab will feature a mix of remote and in-person learning with strict guidelines.
Masks, when you come into the building, is not a question. Like, you have to have your mask. All of the desks are already set up at 6 feet distance. Like, you'll see things like the bay door being open at different points in time whenever available. You can't say that Black lives matter, that BIPOC lives matter, and not take safety very seriously.
They're still figuring out exactly what remote learning will look like.
Yeah, affirm, I'm not sure.
These teachers will find a way to keep their students making music.
The arts, music, that's the time for young people to really dig in and explore themselves, especially in this time.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
A different kind of hydroponics spotted in Monte Vista is the most Colorado thing we saw today. That in your feedback next. Alrighty, the most Colorado thing we saw today takes ditchweed to a whole new level here. Drew sent us this photo of what seems to be some sort of weed growing out of a gutter. He says he spotted this in Monte Vista. Listen here, folks, I'm not a pot expert, I promise, so we had a producer ask the Denver Botanic Gardens, I guess they are, and their people say, yup, looks like weed to us. Who knows how it started growing there? A lot of you said ditchweed on Twitter, but the man with the most likes when I asked people to name the strain here is Ian Dixon. He had a really brilliant strain name. You ready for it? You ready? This is perfect. Curbside Pickup. He wins. He wins the weed contest for today. All right, let's talk about other feedback that you sent me regarding this weed strain. Alexis called it gutter butter. Brett called it the drain strain, and James Mina called it gutter ganja. Keep going. I want to see more of them. Thanks for watching Next. I'll be here again tomorrow night. See ya.